Hi everyone, this is Gail Makes. I hope you're all doing well. Now today we're going to be doing a simple alcohol ink tutorial, and just wanted to show you a few pictures first. These are some previous pictures that I've done using the alcohol ink technique. So the background on all of these is alcohol ink, and then I've stamped over the top. Now this one has a tutorial online for the background, and this second one here I recreate the background of this one. So this is like my original piece, then I do a demo for you. Again, the stamping isn't on there though, so I think I was a little bit scared of doing overly long tutorials back then, so I now want to show you the whole process basically from start to finish, so you can have a go. It's not overly long though, this tutorial is about 45 minutes once we get started. Okay, so if you're following along with me on this tutorial, you're going to need the following for your background. You're going to need alcohol blending solution. This is a Tim Holtz one. You can have a Lavinia one. They're absolutely fine. I don't really notice any difference. This is a bottle. I got a pack of 3 of these from Lavinia actually, and they are great. Just put your blending solution in, so you've got like a finer tip point. You do get a fine tip point on the Tim Holtz one, but this is even finer, so you've got a bit more control. I've got the alcohol lift ink, which helps us lift the ink once we're happy with it off the Yupo onto our Multifarious card. We've got some Ranger and a Lavinia Stamps alcohol ink. So we've got Monsoon, Cloudy Blue and Citrus in the Ranger ones, and then we've got Jade Stone in the Lavinia Stamps alcohol ink. They're all great, love the colours. And then we're going to need a blending tool with some felt pads. You can't use foam pads for what we're doing with this because they just absorb all of the alcohol inks into them and just make everything look mushy. So it's got to be felt pads for these, okay? And then we've got a brayer, and we've got some A5 Yupo paper. This one is a pack that I got from a friend, thanks Kim, who sent me a couple of things from a scrawler box. So it's just their make, I guess. You can use Lavinia Yupo paper as well. That's a little bit thicker than this one. They both work fine. Okay, and then the other thing that I've got is a air dryer, not a heat tool, it's an air dryer. This has got a cool setting on it, which is best to use for this work, because if you use a heat gun or too much heat, you're basically going to melt the Yupo paper. So please use something with a cool setting. And you will need to make sure that all of your windows are open, because alcohol inks are very pungent, and this is recommended. I'm using a tray as well, just to put my Yupo paper in so the alcohol inks don't go everywhere. And as mentioned, I'm going to be pulling this particular print onto Multifarious card by Lavinia Stamps. Now I've only got 7x7 at the moment. I need to order some more, but if you've got an A5, a size piece of card, then by all means use that, because then you'll be able to pull the whole print. Okay, so I'm starting off with a Monsoon, which is the darkest blue, and I'm just trying to lay fairly small dots from top to bottom in a diagonal line, just to get, you know, a good coverage across the page. And this is a technique that I like to use. I'm using my blending tool. I'm just going to sort of smudge out some of that colour. So I've got a lighter patch of ink in the middle, and this is great if you want to stamp fairies or maybe an animal. Just means you've got a lighter area where they can really stand out. And now I'm just adding in all around the edge, almost like framing that area, some more of that Monsoon colour, and you can see the cells are starting to form. Now I'm coming in with the Jade Stone in smaller circles or cells, and I'm laying down quite a bit here, considering that I am going to move it around with the air dryer. But that's absolutely fine, because I want to give it a lot of texture. If I just put a few blobs down and then moved it around, then you're going to get quite a lot of sort of coverage of one colour. But I want quite a mixture of textures in this one. So I've already brought in the citrus colour at this point. Loving that colour. It just really adds a lot to this piece. And I'm adding in the blending solution now, and as you can see, I'm not really being precise. I'm just sort of zigzagging it on really, and I've got quite a good chunk on there, but I do want to start moving around the ink quite naturally, so I'm just letting it dribble down. I think this will give us a really good background texture for our seascape piece. So I've brought in the air dryer, I've got it on the cool setting, and I'm just getting it to dry off so I can carry on adding more if I need to. I've got quite a lot of white area there at the moment, so I'm going to want to add a bit more, well, probably a few more cells around the edge. My ink bottle at this point was getting a little bit clogged, and this can really cause you problems if you don't keep cleaning it, because it means your ink flow that's coming out is going to be quite big, and sometimes you want those little small cells that you're laying down. So just give it a clean every now and again if you find that. And again, I'm adding a bit more blending solution to that to get that moving. So another tip, if your alcohol ink is coming out of your bottle quite quickly and in bigger cells than you want it to, what you can do is sometimes if you just rotate in your hand your ink bottle so the ink's coming out from a different side of the tip, that sometimes has worked for me as well, just to get the small cells coming out. So now I'm quite liking some of these areas that are sort of like a thicker forming of the alcohol ink, so thicker layer. And that is looking quite sort of natural, and maybe like it might be seaweed or something like that. So just see the potential of what you've got forming already in your picture. But again, I'm thinking it's a little bit maybe too sparse at the edges. So I'm working on those areas that I want to have a little bit more depth and more texture. I'm obviously liking this bit here because I'm pointing that bit out. So again, bring in some of your blending solution and get it moving naturally, or you could bring your air dryer in at this point, whatever you want to do. So what I don't like is I don't like when the ink kind of forms in lines around the very edge of the paper. So I just encourage a bit off there, because it was just becoming, it just makes it look unreal, like it is a picture, I think, if you've got lines at the very edges. So I was just letting a bit of the ink flow off there, which wasn't a problem, and then use the air dryer just to sort of seal it in. Okay, giving that a bit of a clean, so I don't want to get lots of alcohol ink on the back of my picture. There's some areas now that I want to go in and fix, like I really like this Monsoon colour, beautiful in the middle of the page there, but it ended a bit abruptly, so I'm just kind of trying to make that look as natural as it is. It's tricky sometimes when you add more colour in, because sometimes it kind of can form in a way where it doesn't look like it's sort of connected to the original part that you put in there. So I was just trying to encourage that down. It didn't work exactly as I wanted it to, but I think it's quite a nice effect there, and it's brought a sort of lighter blue into play, which is quite interesting. Okay, so the next stage is to bring in our blending tool. Now what we can do is we can use our blending solution in small dots on a piece of felt, and then we can encourage even smaller cells by doing this, because obviously we're using the fine tip point. Now don't do this with a foam pad. I have found that this is a disaster. Basically what will happen is the foam pad just soaks up all your alcohol ink into it, and doesn't really give you that cell effect on the page and or on your Yupo, and it just becomes a big mushy mess. So I'm just adding a little, actually I decided to change my pad at this point because I wanted a completely fresh one. Wanted to make sure it wasn't too saturated with old colour or just general alcohol ink. And as you can see, I'm doing really little fine precise dots there, and as we pop this onto the Yupo paper, you can see it forms those tiny little cells. This Yupo paper I'm using is quite thin actually compared to, say, the Lavinia Yupo paper, and I did find that it was sort of spreading more quickly when you use the blending solution, and you were kind of losing that small cell effect. So if you can get Lavinia Yupo paper, which is just a bit thicker, I would probably recommend that. But then the more I persevered with this, it did seem to do what I wanted it to do. As you can see, top left there, there's some really little small cells forming. And if you're liking this and you feel like it is spreading bigger and bigger and getting a bit out of control for what you like, you can just get a piece of kitchen towel, as long as it's not too patterned, and then just kind of stop, you know, press it on and stop that ink moving any further. I was quite happy to just leave it to do what it wanted to do, but now I'm adding a bit of Monsoon again just to the corners, because I don't really want white corners. I always like to take most of my ink up to the edge of the page. And what I'm doing here is, as I put the ink on, I'm just sort of tampering it down with the blending tool, and that's stopping it moving any further, like I was just trying to explain. So if you're happy, if you're not worried about the size of the cell but you're happy with how it is, then you can just use your tool to effectively stop the ink moving any further. Okay, so I'm happy to stop here. So what I'll do is just dry that with my air dryer off camera, and then I'll show you the lift ink process. So one thing I recommend is that you have your Multifarious card ready to go straight away. We're going to lay a strip of the alcohol lift ink along the top there, and what we're going to do is brayer it down, and this will sort of re-wet the ink so it's ready to lift. If you bring the brayer down too many times, it's going to start to form lines or even drag the ink down and make it look totally different. So you want to go straight in with your card to pick that up, because obviously the longer you leave it, it's going to start to dry again. So we'll go straight in there with the Multifarious card, and what I'm doing is just grabbing my brayer here and just brayering the back of the card. It's a homemade card, so I'm not worried about the fact that I'm getting a little bit of ink on the back there. That's not a problem. I'll probably mount it anyway at some point. So give that a good brayer, and then what we'll do is see what it's like when we lift it. And hopefully this one is the one. Okay, so we've got some good efforts around here. I don't think enough alcohol lift ink went here, so let's just do an experiment. Let's see if we can get some more on here. I think it's because I'm doing it in this tray, if I'm being honest. So let's just see what we can do, and then that would have been top there. Let's just see if we can pick up any more. This is an experiment, guys. I haven't tried doing this before, but we'll see. Got more on this side. We need more here. So that is that side, so we need more work here. Okay. I hope I'm not putting you off doing this, by the way. It's not usual. I've had some really great results. Obviously, it's trickier in a way when you're doing it for the camera, because, you know, you want those perfect results, but we don't get it every time, I'm afraid. Anyway, it's nice to see, I guess, not everything goes right all the time. We've kind of got a double bit there, which is interesting. I quite like that, though. And then we need a bit more here. So it's this bit here that doesn't want to lift properly, isn't it? Let's put some right over the top of that. A bit more. We'll see if we can get that bit. It's so awkward. So there's the ridge. Let's try it. We're getting there, look. We're getting there. So this is quite, again, even though it's annoying, it's kind of good fun. I know it sounds a bit weird, but it is quite good fun. You never know what you're going to get. Let's do this last bit then, see what we get. See, it's getting there. Kind of reminds me of like gel plate work, when you're, you know, you just never know what your pool's going to look like, and that's really interesting, I think. So just see if I can get some more there. Then we might have a complete piece, you never know. Nearly. I think it's telling me that bit's meant to be left white. It's just a sign, isn't it? Unless I go for this bit down here, look. Looks like we've got a healthier bit of ink down here. Let's do it. See what we can get. So it's this bit here. I'm just putting my thumb there. Yay! We did it. Right, we've got a full piece. We can work with it now. Okay, I'll just chop these edges off, obviously, and then we'll see what we can do with it, eh? Just doing a quick mock-up. I'm hoping to have Althea down here. Some of her fin is, some of her sort of tail is going to be cut off, but that's fine. And then I'm going to have the fish getting some food from her, and the secret garden window just sort of peeping in the corner there, and we can maybe get some light shining through there. So it's a tricky one. I don't know how much I'm going to go in with stencils and things like that, because I'd feel like I don't necessarily want to ruin the actual background that I've already created. So it's always a bit of a weird balance, but we'll see how we get on. So I'm going to ink up, let's just move this out of the way. I'm going to ink up in Twilight. I've stamped it off once already because I haven't used this stamp before. I like to make sure I prime them and actually stamp them off first, and also it just kind of primes them, gives them a bit of a surface to catch onto, you know, gives that ink a layer of ink that's already been on to catch onto, basically. So I think it's just a good idea to do with a new stamp. And what I'm going to do is just place her, I want to get most of her in. Just going to miss some of the, like these tail bits here, but I know she's not completely in shot, but and I'm going to make sure I give her plenty of time to sit. I do like to just pretty much do it sort of without the aid of a stamping platform though, to be honest, because I just feel like it's a bit more freeing for you really to do it that way. Right, let's give her a pull. Yep, she's come out really well, really pleased with that. That's great. What I think I'll do first is just stamp the little secret garden door. So what I'm going to do is try and avoid stamping the edge. I suppose that could be wooden panelling though on the, we could go over that a bit more on the ship, if it's a shipwreck. But what I'm going to do, I think, is maybe mask off a bit of this area with some paper. And then we can kind of partially, like as if that's something's growing over the window, if you see what I mean. It's quite hard getting it and mimicking it exactly, but I mean, you could go over it. You could do this on a masking sheet. Actually, I've got a pencil. Let's just see if we can kind of get it roughly. Let's try that. So if I just get a pair of scissors, a little bit, we'll see how we go. And then maybe I'll just, I haven't got all of the brickwork in, which I'm quite pleased with there, so let's just stamp it off a bit. So I'm getting some paper there, and I'm just going to stamp off. Okay, so, right, so I think what we're going to do is just kind of round about, oh, it's moving. Oh, so annoying when this happens. So I'm going to hold it there, look, and then I'm just going to stamp it about there. Okay, I don't know if it's straight, but hey, you know, if you're on a shipwreck, probably not everything is going to be straight, is it? So now I'm just going to give that a bit of a firmer press, because again, because you've got that paper layer blocking part of it off as well, that can sometimes cause problems. Right, it is very faded, but we can use that as a guide, and I like where the sun's coming in here, so we can bring a bit of that yellow down, so that's fine. I'm actually okay with that. Right, then we'll get the fish in. The fish can be more silhouetted like Althea is. It's going to have to be on this big acrylic block. Right, and then we'll just have him about here. And hold him down. Okay, because it's a bigger block, I'm just going to be careful how I take it off. There we go. Oh yeah, just about to get a bit of food. And now, as I love stencils, I made the decision to bring one in. I'm going to use the Lavinia Laurel stencil, and I'm just going to place it at an angle just so it looks more natural. So I think I'm going to go in with Warm Breeze. I could do a bit of Rainforest as well, but let's do it a bit of Warm Breeze initially. And I've got an old smoothie here. I'm just going to check this out actually, because you know when you haven't used one for a while and you think, is that going to like be giving off an awful colour? No, it's not really giving off anything, so we're good. So bring in the stencil in, and again I'm just going to lay it at a bit of an angle. Maybe we could have some of this stencil coming in over that. Yeah, let's start it about here and bring it down. So I'm starting about here because I want to keep all this bit here. So we can start off really faded maybe. So now, do I want to? No, it's tricky between Rainforest and Warm Breeze. I almost kind of like want a bit of a blend of the both really. So what I'm going to do is get a bit of Rainforest on there as well and kind of almost like mix the colours. Okay, so I'm going in, and so I'm starting lighter here and going to come darker as I come down. So a bit of Warm Breeze, bit of Rainforest, and I'm going to start about here. Okay. Coming in a bit darker down here. Just have to be careful. Hold on to your stencil because obviously it does move around a bit. And then we're bringing down a bit more colour now coming through. And if you don't put too much on, you're still going to kind of keep a bit of that detail you got from your, you know, your alcoholics. So let's just see if we can kind of get it. Okay, right, so we've got that. Now, so you've got these big kind of trickier areas. What I might do is I might, because we haven't got so much colour underneath, I may just go in with a different colour there and just blend it so these areas don't look quite so dark. So we could just blend in a bit more over the top like that. That usually works. So you see I'm just going over the areas that I've just done. There we go, that's a bit better. So it doesn't sort of stand out quite as much. And then I feel like maybe it needs to carry on a bit up here, but I don't want to ruin that really. It's a tricky balance. I've got the Arctic Versafine Clay, which might be quite an interesting one to try. It's going to be a lot lighter, obviously. So we could maybe bring a little bit more of the stencil in that way, possibly. So let's just try a little bit. I'm all for experimenting. If it goes wrong, guys, it goes wrong. It's just one of those things, isn't it? If we're not happy with the end result, we can always add other elements to, you know, to get it going. It's fine. We can bring some pens in, or like we can do Posca pens. We can do glitter pens, whatever takes our fancy. So there you go, we've got a bit of blue coming in down there, which I think works quite nicely actually. I think that blends it in a bit better. I quite like this blue. So let's bring a little bit of that just up here. Maybe just this little bit here. And what we can also do, there's a bit more. I quite like that bit there, yeah, liking that bit. Okay, so that's working better for me now. quite pleased with that. So that is how it's looking at the moment. Okay. So we're at stage 1 of the stamping at the moment. It needs a lot more work, but we'll get there. So first thing I'm going to do is sort of build up the window area a bit more, because I think that's kind of, I need to see how that's going to look before I carry on with the rest. So I'm using the Kuretake Zig Clean pens. I'm going for blue grey and pale green. Okay, so what I'm doing is I've just done a little practice just to see what I think. And I'm just going to sort of go round some of these areas and blend it out a little bit. I just want it to stand out fairly well, but not sort of take over the picture too much. So let's get a bit of the lighter colour on there, and then I can bring in the blue grey in the areas where I need to, just to sort of make certain areas stand out more than others. So I'm just going to bring in the lighter colour again, just to blend that out a bit more. And I've sped this next bit up a little bit just because I didn't think you'd want to sit there for ages watching me colouring. What you want to do is obviously avoid the trellising part in the middle of the window, because that's meant to be the bit where we can look out. And I'm just blending with the dark and the light colours. The light is great to blend over the dark if it's a bit too dark. And now I'm bringing that down around the sort of seaweedy type lines there, just to give it a little bit more colour. Once you've done that, you can go back into the stamp and you can use your darker pen just to add a few more little dots and lines that just mimic that original stamping, just to sort of show that it was originally brickwork, but we're saying it's almost like sort of wooden planks. And now I'm just bringing some of that colour out. The Zig pens really do blend well, and it's a great way to add a bit of something to a background. Okay, so my next step, before I do any more background, is to colour the fish. Now, I did have a go at colouring the fish in my Posca pen, actually, and this seemed to work quite well. So I'm just going to go over him as carefully as I can with my Posca. It's always tricky around the eye area because that is the tiniest area. I think I'm going to have to get this one, because this is my favourite colour. I think I'm going to have to get this one in the really, really fine nib as well as this one. This one is the 0.9 to 1.3 mil, the PC3M, but you can get a smaller one than that. So I think what I'll do is see if I can get hold of that one. And obviously be careful. Just be careful where you are. There we go, not too bad. Where your hand is, because you don't want to put your hand in there and smudge it. So what I'm going to do is leave him like that and then outline him afterwards once that's dry. Now the mermaid, I did do a test mermaid. So I had the idea of giving her some of the same sort of coloration. So I did quite a few dots on her skin to match her scales kind of further down. And again, just be careful of your fish. And I wanted to give her some dots as well on her face. And then bring some of those down on her arms as well. Again, like I say, may work better if you've got a smaller point on your Posca pen, but I quite like that. Maybe just another one there. Yeah, okay. Just colour her in with the Zig Clean pen. think sometimes you can get, you see that okay? Yeah, sometimes you can get a bit carried away with trying to add too much colour or too many different colours. So I think this can put people off as well. But if you know you've got a really good, sort of like a really good quality set of pens, and you know it can provide you with that instant colour, I would say go for it, because you know, just pick your favourite colours, because ultimately you're going to be looking at this piece. But I just wanted to make sure I wasn't adding too many different colour tones to this one, because I think that can cause problems. I don't really want to go too dark, so let's just get a bit of that blue-grey on here for now. And I think what I'll do is I'll add something sparkly there. These bits here, again, I'm just going to do in that blue. And then we'll add some hints of that blue in there. Or tail area. Is that you kind of pick up on some of the light coming naturally into the picture from the background. So, okay, there we go. A blue gel pen, so this is like a metallic gel pen. I can just give her a little bit of extra colour that way. So I know it is a bit of a different tone, but it's kind of, we've got some of the yellowish colours, so I don't think it's going to cause too many problems. There we go, yeah, that looks okay actually, that's quite nice. There we go. Okay, so we've got that sort of gold shimmer now, if you can pick up on that. So I was thinking maybe I could bring in like this stamp. So we've got the Lavinia Stamps, so just bring in maybe something like this over that kind of particular area there. And I do want to kind of keep some of those bubbles there, so I'm not going to go, let's do one here. I want to keep a bit of that background, but sort of still bring in something that's going to come around. So I might just bring it in like that and then keep this bit here. Yeah, quite pleased with that. So stamp again. And we'll just bring it in sort of round about here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that works pretty well with where we've got the window coming to. So what I might just do on the window is just add a little bit more of that sort of darker area and a little bit more around there like that. But then we'll blend it in again with the green. There we go. There we go, yeah, that's looking good. Let's just move it up a little bit, and I'm just going to bring that one in about there. Press that down. Okay, yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's looking quite nice like that, and I just think that it's almost like light shining through some of these, you know, in other areas. So I think that just gives it a little bit more dimension. Just wondering, maybe I should bring one more in here. Just like, yeah, let's go for Verdant because that's quite a bright one. Let's just see how this goes. And then, so take a layer off and we'll go for about here. Don't want to lose a lot of that detail. Let's just move it up a little bit. Yes, that's very faint, but it just gives you the sense that there's something making those, you know, those colours hit the light in a certain way. So the fish, now what I did before was I kind of outlined him in blue, just to make him stand out a bit from the background. There we go. And then I just did some little dots on him just to represent his little scales. And I might just add a little bit of gold to the top of him, just so to sort of reflect, or in line with the light hitting the hair there. There we go. Just gives him a little bit of extra character, I guess. A few more dots in gold. There we go. Okay, and all I've done is just off camera, I just added a bit more green around here and a few more sort of these dots just to, and on this side as well, like you can just see them very faintly, just to sort of, you know, show there's some sort of structure there basically by the side of the window. So what we could probably do as well is if I do like a kind of bit here, just to show that there is perhaps some sort of paneling going on. Okay, so we've got that sort of big whitish area there. I'm not going to worry too much about that because, you know, it is a natural scene. We want to keep some of the background elements. What I could do, I've got my pan pastels with me actually, so I can bring in some yellow. Always open that awkwardly. Right, so I can kind of play with this yellow here a bit more, bring that out a little bit so it's kind of doing more of its thing, and then I can maybe catch a bit of that in that light as well. So it is, you know, it is quite easy to, if you're thinking, oh, I don't want to go too heavy with pens on that, but it needs a bit of colour. Pan pastels are great for just adding another element. So I'm just, there's just a bit more sort of like sunshine pouring through now. That's the impression we're trying to give. Okay, so there we go. Just to give you a bit of an idea of, maybe could bring a bit down here as well, just by a tail, just to give you a bit more idea of that light hitting. Pan pastels are great for this. They just sort of blend. They help. I guess they help pull things together a bit more, really. Let's do a bit behind here as well. Maybe a bit in this bit here, just to... It's nice just to go for some of those areas that were quite white before, just to, you know, give it a bit of something. There we go. Well, this colour is light green, and this hopefully will tie in quite well with this green here. There we go. Okay, so it's just brightened that corner up a little bit, really. Okay, so these kind of now look like air bubbles drifting through, which I quite like. I think what we'll do then is we'll get maybe a bit of darker blue around this corner. So this is phthalo blue. Yeah, the good thing with pan pastel is as you're adding the colour, it still retains a lot of that sort of pattern underneath in your background. So you're not losing your nice background. Let's try this other side, that's annoying me. So you can sort of build up. It's quite an interesting pattern going on there now, but it's automatically completely changed that background as well that we were a bit worried about. So yeah, it's kind of quite interesting. Quite interesting now. You've added an extra element basically. So we'll go up a bit, just extend that up so it's not too jarring. And probably this area will get covered in a darker colour anyway on the corners. So there we go. Let's bring a bit down, break up some of that green that we had. Just bring a bit into those bits down there. Fish isn't standing out quite as much now, so what I might do is just add a little bit, kind of do a little bit of coloration over the Posca. Let's give them a little bit of depth. There we go. Okay, so what I want to do now is kind of give it a bit of an edge in. As I said, I always like to go round in a darker colour around the edge to make it pop. I think we'll go for Twilight and see how it looks, basically. So I'm using VersaFine Clair Twilight, and I'm just going to kind of, oh yeah. Because basically, you know, we're blending it in, it works fine as a darker tone, sort of matching in with this, I think. So I'm happy with that. When you're getting it on your smoothie or your brush, you just want to kind of start off rubbing a little bit off on your paper and then work your way in, because it just blends it a little bit better that way. If you kind of get some on your blender and then you go straight in on your page, it can just sort of look a bit blotchy. So if you just start quite sort of just slightly off your page, that will suck up the main part of ink at the start and then bring smoother blending into the sides. So I'll show you what I mean. So look, there's nothing here. I've got some here on my blender, and I'm just going to kind of start rubbing it off here first and gradually bring it in, and that just gives you that unblotchy kind of effect. So see, obviously I'm going over some of these bits, but that's fine. I don't mind that because it pushes them back a bit more and gives them a bit more depth. So again, I've got my corner here. I'm bringing some of my ink in onto the paper first before I start bringing it onto the actual card. Okay, so you can see where it's kind of done that there. And then we'll have a bit more. Just going to do this all the way around the edge basically until I'm happy with how it looks. And it will catch some of those bits that were lighter, but that's fine. It pushes them into the background a bit more, making them seem more realistic. You're not just getting a flat picture then, basically. Okay. So just keep doing that all the way around the edge. And it just draws your attention more into the middle of the picture and what's happening. This corner. And sometimes this can just sort of pull a picture together anyway a bit more. If you have used a colour where you think, oh dear, that doesn't really, or that area maybe stood out a bit too much that I did with the pan pastels for a while, but now I see it's blending better into the background, and some areas have come out even lighter, which is quite nice because it's again, it's a way of capturing the light. Okay, there we go. I always find it quite tricky when I'm first looking at a finished piece whether I'm happy with it, but let's get it onto a sheet of cleaner paper. Okay, and here is a long shot of the finished piece. I do like looking at things from a distance, and I'll quite often photograph things just to give me that sort of a distance from a piece, just to sort of spot any potential changes. I'm finding here that maybe I shouldn't have changed the fish from its original sort of silhouette stamping. Maybe I shouldn't have used a Posca pen. The twilight did really stand out. So let me know what you think in the comments. Would you colour the fish in? Would you leave it silhouetted as it was? It's always interesting to get a bit of a conversation going about these things. And also, if there are any of the pictures that I showed you earlier on that you would like me to recreate as a tutorial, do drop me a comment below, because it would be really, well, I'd really enjoy just recreating some of those and showing you the alcoholic background through to the stamping. So I love doing this sort of work, so happy to do that. As well, if you haven't looked at the channel much already, have a browse around, see what you can find, and it'd be great if you could subscribe. It's free to do so, so all you need to do is hit the bell and all notifications, and that will let you know whenever I've got a new video coming out. Also, thumbs up is great for me. That helps spread the video across YouTube a little bit more. Even though I've got adverts on my channel, I'm actually not monetized, so I don't make any money from those at all. I do this just as a labour of love, really, and hopefully help a few people out there that may have lost their mojo or that are starting out. So I do hope you'll have a go at the tutorial. Drop me a comment if you do. And have a great week crafting, guys. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.